Hi guys, we're going to talk a little about generating power. Before we even talk about striking with the hands, first things first, get yourself some medical tape and tape your hands, and then get some professional hand wraps and wrap your hands. That's absolutely essential. And these are for grappling. These are not striking gloves. I'm just using these for really, really light precision work. If you're going to hit anything solid or anything hard, you've really got to have 16-ounce gloves. It's absolutely imperative. But just in terms of the proprioception, the coordination, the body mechanics, we're trying to incorporate principles of traditional Chinese medicine, internal Kung Fu, Tai Chi, Bagua, Xingyi, and the first principle of these Chinese Kung Fu arts is that the body moves as one unit. Namely, you're not just swimming the arms and the legs around, it's not just punching and kicking. The body, in a very coordinated way with the breath and very precise movements, is moving as one unit. So it might look very punchy, kicky, but remember, we're keeping in mind those concepts to keep awareness in the core, to keep sunken down. You know, it's the same thing in any type of athletics. They talk about lowering your center of gravity, sitting down on a punch, having what's called athletic height in basketball or baseball. It simply refers to your maximum performance as a human being in terms of motion is not at your standing height. It's at a lower height where the glutes, the hamstring, and the lower back, where that gluteal chain is engaged. So remember, even if you're not in a low stance, you've gotta keep a bend in your legs and in your knees, and that's where the power is gonna be generated from the entire body, delivered from the core. But it can't be delivered if your hips aren't folded, if there isn't that little bit of a sit-down bend. Without that, it's just all arm strength. So it's imperative that you have that little pressure downwards in the butt, in the sits bones, just a little bit. Even if you're in a high stance, you can generate a lot of power just by using that downward hip pressure. And of course, in a low stance, you're going to have the downward hip pressure, the core structure, as well as being able to push off the legs. The caveat, the one problem being, with that wide low stance, you're frozen there. You're not leaping out of the way by any means. You know, you're kind of stuck there in a low stance, and you're giving up your height, which oftentimes in fighting you do not want to do. So, just a few thoughts about power, as everyone talks about it, everyone thinks about it. A pine cone from this tree, 2 of them nearly hit me today, and these are like green, ripe, 2-pound pine cones. And it just reminded me of, you know, Kung Fu and Tai Chi and internal martial arts and boxing. I mean, look at Nick Diaz, look at professional boxers. They're not using muscular force, they would gas out. They're using relaxation and technique and intelligence and awareness in these arts. So that's what I wanted to discuss today. Loose, heavy power. Yes, of course, muscular force is power. But if you get tired in a fight and you lose your gas tank, trust me, you lose all power whatsoever. You are done. So the answer is to have this kind of loose, heavy power, which actually gives me energy. That didn't take me any energy because I wasn't using muscular force, because I was using the entire body and not just crunching on it and chimping on it and using the shoulders and the core and everything. We can use enough shoulder power just to brace the body, and the rest can come from the core. The rest can come from the leg activation, the activation of all the other muscles. So that's important to remember in power generation. If you've ever seen like a great athlete like Barry Bonds, it doesn't even have to be martial arts. If you've ever seen Barry Bonds hit a home run, that guy understood so much about internal coordination. You could tell that he was going to hit that out of the park before he hit it out of the park. Just like a perfect right hand in karate or in boxing, it comes from in front of the body. It's not out here, it's right here, and it just shoots straight to the target, coordinates with the breath. And it just seems like such a small shot compared to all the big ones you can take. Yet that small shot, that small little Anderson Silva, elbow down, horizontal punch, it can be so effective if you find the right target, find the right timing, if you have the athleticism and the grit to deliver it, then you don't need the muscular force, if that makes any sense. You know, of course, fighting takes a great deal of strength and tenacity and brute strength and so forth. But once you have that, you realize that your greatest weapon is going to be your own muscles and gassing out, which is where you need this type of loose power. So I just want to discuss some of these traditional principles of kind of Kung Fu and Tai Chi. And, you know, this is really important. Even if you're practicing your boxing, make sure that you're doing it slowly when you're not at the gym, really perfecting your technique, perfecting the finishing position of every punch, keeping your eyes open, working on your head feints, working on your rhythm, working on your footwork, spending at least an hour or 2 hours a week, not even punching, just in your stance, working on agility, working on double backs, double forwards, double right, double left, double unders, just agility drills, 1 or 2 hours a week. The best professional fight camps that I've seen, that's what they're working on. That's, you know, of course they've got sparring every day. Of course they've got weight training. Of course they've got lessons and pads and all that stuff. But I see them also 1 hour a week, literally just agility training and footwork training. It's so fundamental to have that footwork base, that nice wide stance, that space between your feet that enables all this other stuff that we're talking about. So just some thoughts then, again, about power. Anyone can generate muscular force, especially if you got big muscles, sure. But real martial arts power comes from within. It's a soft power in those areas that uneducated people, uneducated in the art of knocking people out, you know, just some chimp college kid on the street, he's going to be using a lot of muscular force to knock somebody out. I don't have to. I can use the legs, I can use the waist, I can use the butt, I can use, you know, I can use my coordination and proprioception and the transference of force to my muscles to where I don't need to rip on a shot anymore. I used to have to. It took me 20 years, trust me. If martial arts and knocking people out was all like, you know, Aikido and Tai Chi, and yeah, everyone would just touch somebody and they'd fall. Of course, it takes a great deal of muscular strength, but once you have that strength, it's a question of not just developing strength, but developing power, developing technique, pushing off the rear foot, which generates this pushward up off the hips. In your jab, in your left hook, in your right hook, you should be pushing off that rear foot always, and rotating on the front foot always. That's the power of a hook. You can get crazy power off a hook right here, or you can get the same 10 times as much power with the exact same motion by literally pushing off that rear foot and rotating on the front one. It's so important. It's so critical and so key. And same thing with the rear cross. Sure thing, you can throw it with a bunch of muscular force, or you can just use your dead weight. Use your whole body, not just your arms. Your whole body and your arms moving as one unit. This is so important that you get this. This is really the key critical concept.